Hello, dear members of the Soul Stories family. Today we will bring you a romantic love story, so let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any meaningful stories. Rain in Texas wasn't the gentle, romantic kind you saw in movies. It was the kind of rain that made you feel like the sky was throwing buckets of water at you out of pure spite. Callie Monroe, a city girl with once pristine high heels now caked in mud, stood on a slick red dirt road, cursing the broken umbrella in her hand. Her rental car, a battered old Hyundai, had officially given up 10 minutes ago, abandoning her in the middle of this freak storm on her way to visit her grandmother in a tiny town called Dusty Hollow. "Just perfect, Callie," she muttered to herself, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Leave the city for some peace and quiet, and now look at you, stranded in the middle of nowhere, soaked like a drowned rat, and this umbrella." She held up what was now nothing more than a mangled mess of bent metal rods. "Thanks for nothing, you piece of junk." She flung the umbrella into a muddy puddle, sending dirty water splashing onto her favorite floral dress. Callie let out a frustrated sigh, trying to stay calm. Her phone had died earlier that afternoon, and the nearest town was at least 3 miles away. She started walking, her shoes slipping on the muddy road. Each step came with a muttered curse. "Just need to find someone, anyone, and maybe I'll survive the night." Then, as if the heavens had heard her prayer or her swearing, a figure appeared through the gray curtain of rain. A man on horseback, wearing a weathered leather jacket and a cowboy hat pulled low over his face. The black horse beneath him moved at a lazy pace, seemingly unfazed by the storm. Callie froze, unsure whether this was her rescuer or a character straight out of a horror movie. "Hey, over here!" Callie waved her arms, nearly slipping. "I need help. My car broke down, and I'm not about to camp out in this swamp." The man reined in his horse, tilting his head to look at her. His gaze was sharp, but a small smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth, like he was trying not to laugh at her sorry state. "Car broke down, huh?" His voice was low, thick with a Texas drawl. "You look like you lost a wrestling match with a mud puddle." Callie crossed her arms, tilting her chin up despite her wet hair clinging to her face. "Thanks for the compliment. And you are who exactly? My knight in shining armor? Oh, wait, Black Horse, right?" He chuckled dryly without malice. "Bo Walker." "And no, ma'am, not a knight. Just a guy passing by. Saw you fighting with that umbrella." He nodded toward the broken mess lying in the mud. Callie blushed but quickly recovered her sass. It deserved it. "Now are you going to help me, or should I keep monologuing to the rain?" Bo sighed, clearly not thrilled about playing hero. He dismounted, walking with a slight limp. An old injury, Callie guessed. "All right, city girl, my place isn't far. You can wait out the storm there, but don't expect me to carry you." Callie raised an eyebrow. "Your place? Let me guess, a leaky roofed farmhouse with chickens running wild? I've heard stories about you, Mr. Mysterious Cowboy." Bo shot her a look, but there was a glint of amusement in his eyes. "You sure talk a lot. Get on the horse unless you feel like swimming back to town." Callie looked at the horse, then at Bo, then back at the horse. "Get on. That thing? Should I sign an insurance waiver first? Because I swear I've never ridden a horse, and I don't want to end up in the ER tonight." "No waiver," Bo said dryly. "And if you fall off, I ain't picking you up." After a few minutes of struggling, and one near disaster of flipping over, Callie finally managed to climb onto the horse, settling behind Bo. She clung to his jacket, trying not to notice the faint scent of wood smoke and leather that clung to him. The horse started moving, and Callie couldn't help but notice that, for all his roughness, Bo handled the horse with the easy confidence of someone born to live on the open range. "What are you even doing out in this storm?" Callie asked, raising her voice over the rain. Bo didn't turn around. "Checking fences. My cows aren't as smart as you might think. If I don't keep an eye on them, they'll bust through and wander off." Callie laughed. "Oh, so you're not just saving me. You're a superhero for cows, too?" "Adorable." "Be quiet," Bo muttered, but Callie swore she heard a smile in his voice. They rode in silence after that, the steady sound of rain and hoofbeats filling the air. Callie felt the cold seeping into her bones, but somehow Bo's presence, gruff as he was, gave her an odd sense of safety. She didn't know much about him, other than the town gossip that he was some reclusive cowboy with a rundown ranch and a permanent scowl. But there was something about him that intrigued her, like there was a story hidden beneath that gruff exterior, one worth discovering. As the faint lights of a ranch house came into view through the rain, Callie exhaled in relief, but she couldn't shake a nagging thought. Had she just stumbled into a temporary shelter, or an adventure she wasn't ready for? Callie Monroe stood gaping at what Bo Walker called home, looking like she had just witnessed an explosion straight out of a post-apocalyptic movie. The ranch wasn't just run down, it looked like a storm had torn through it, and then doubled back just to laugh at it again. The roof leaked steadily into a metal bucket placed in the center of the living room. The chicken coop out back leaned drunkenly to one side, and a shaggy dog, looking like it had just rolled through a pile of hay, was barking its head off like it had just won the lottery. Callie turned to Bo, who was shrugging off his soaked jacket and hanging it on a rusty nail in the wall. "This is your house?" Callie blurted out, full of disbelief. "Or are you filming the next season of The Walking Dead?" Bo shot her a glare, though the corner of his mouth twitched like he was trying not to laugh. "You want to go back and sleep with your broken umbrella? The door's right there." Callie crossed her arms and lifted her chin defiantly, even though she was still shivering from the cold. "No thanks. I'll stay right here and prove I can survive in this cowboy rat hole." She stepped inside, almost tripping over a loose floorboard. "Good grief, aren't you worried this place will collapse on your head?" Bo shrugged, walking past her into the kitchen, a tiny room featuring a fridge that buzzed ominously and a gas stove that looked like it belonged in the 1970s. "It's lasted 10 years without falling down. I'm betting it'll hold for one more night, just long enough to house you." Callie rolled her eyes but couldn't deny that, for all its disrepair, the ranch had a strange kind of charm. Maybe it was the smell of old wood, or the warm yellow glow from the oil lamp Bo had lit when the power went out. Or maybe, she admitted grudgingly, it was Bo himself, with his rugged looks and the way he kept his distance, yet somehow still came across almost likable. "All right, Mr. Host," Callie said, clapping her hands together like she was about to start a major renovation. "I need dry clothes, something edible, and maybe a corner of the house that isn't actively leaking. What have you got in this paradise?" Bo pointed down a narrow hallway. "Guest room's at the end. There's some old shirts in the closet. Don't make a mess." Callie raised an eyebrow. "Your shirts? So basically, I'm about to look like I borrowed clothes from a lumberjack, right?" "Or you can keep that wet dress and freeze to death," Bo said dryly. "Your call." She glared at him, but eventually stomped off down the hallway, leaving a trail of water behind her. When she returned, Callie was wearing a flannel shirt of Bo's, the sleeves so long she had to roll them up to her elbows. She looked like a kid wearing her dad's clothes, but at least she was dry. Bo gave her a once-over, a flicker of amusement crossing his face before he turned away, muttering something about looking worse than the broken umbrella. "Now for food," Callie announced, striding into the kitchen with the confidence of someone who had mastered every food delivery app in existence. She opened the fridge to find a single egg, an expired yogurt, and a potato that looked like it was planning its escape. "Seriously, Bo? This is your food supply? I've seen freshman dorms stocked better than this." Bo, busy drying a hunting knife on the table, shrugged. "I don't throw dinner parties out here. There's wheat and flour in the pantry. Figure it out." Callie squinted at him. Challenge accepted. She began rummaging around, determined to prove she wasn't the useless city girl Bo clearly assumed she was. The result? A disaster of scrambled eggs, burnt on one side, stuck to the pan, and resembling something you might find in a tire fire. She proudly placed the plate in front of Bo, who sat at the table eyeing it with deep suspicion. "And what do you call this?" Bo asked, poking at the rubbery mass with his fork like it might bite him. "Callie's special," she said, folding her arms proudly. "Eat up. I poured my soul into that." Bo looked at the plate, then at her, and then let out a sigh like he was heading to his execution. He took a bite, chewed slowly, and his expression morphed from skeptical to discreet suffering. "You sure this isn't poison?" Callie burst out laughing, nearly falling off her chair. Oh, come on, it's not that bad, is it? Bo swallowed hard and put down his fork. I've eaten hay that tasted better. But then he took another bite, surprising Callie. What? I'm hungry. And I don't waste food, even if it tastes like burned tires. They both laughed, and for a moment the tension between them eased. Callie realized Bo wasn't entirely the cold cowboy she had pegged him as. He had a dry sense of humor, and the way he kept eating her terrible cooking just so she wouldn't feel bad was oddly endearing. But the peace didn't last long. With her natural talent for causing chaos, Callie decided to help Bo tidy up the living room. While trying to move an old wooden table, she accidentally knocked over an entire toolbox. Hammers, nails, saws, and a mess of screws scattering everywhere. The clanging noise was like a metallic symphony, and Bo rushed in from the kitchen, eyes wide. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted, dropping to his knees and gathering up the tools like they were precious family heirlooms. Callie threw up her hands innocently. "I was trying to help. Who leaves a whole arsenal sitting on a table anyway? Planning to rebuild the Great Wall of China?" Bo glared at her, inspecting a hammer as if checking it for injuries. "These are my tools. You have any idea how hard it is to keep them from rusting? You're like the second storm to hit tonight." Callie grinned, completely unrepentant. "Come on, cowboy, look on the bright side. You just got a full inventory check, courtesy of me." Bo let out a long sigh but didn't look quite as angry anymore. He stood up, brushing off his jeans. "You know, I'm starting to think rescuing you was the worst decision of my life." Callie winked. "Oh, but you won't regret it. I'm the only ray of sunshine in this gloomy ranch, buddy." They continued picking up the mess in silence, but the atmosphere between them was lighter now. Callie realized that, for all Bo's gruffness, he hadn't actually kicked her out into the storm. And Bo, though he'd never admit it, was starting to see that Callie wasn't just some annoying city girl. She had energy, spunk, and an odd ability to make him want to laugh, something he hadn't done in a very long time. As night fell, Callie curled up in an old armchair in the living room, wrapped in a thin blanket. The rain still roared outside, but inside the shabby house, she felt safe. She glanced at Bo, who was sitting by the fireplace, fixing a bent nail. "Hey, Bo," she called out sleepily. "Thanks for saving me, even if you're kinda like a cranky old man." Bo didn't look up, but she could swear she saw him smiling. "Get some sleep, city girl. You're gonna owe me for that egg massacre tomorrow." Callie let out a soft laugh and closed her eyes. She had no idea that in this battered old house, she had just stepped into something far bigger. A story filled with secrets, old wounds, and a treasure hidden deeper than gold. The next morning, Callie woke up feeling like she had spent the night in an abandoned antique museum. The thin blanket had slipped off the armchair onto the floor, and the steady sound of rain still tapped against the windows, though it was less violent than the night before. She stretched and yawned, immediately faced with a harsh reality. She was still stuck at Bo Walker's crumbling ranch. The storm had turned the dirt road leading into town into a river of mud, and unless she sprouted wings or learned to swim in sludge, she'd be staying here at least another day. Callie shuffled into the kitchen, where Bo sat sipping black coffee from a chipped mug. The shaggy dog, whom Callie had affectionately named Fuzzball, though Bo stubbornly called him Dog, was snoring at his feet. Bo looked up as she entered, his eyes flicking over the oversized flannel shirt she was still wearing. "You look like you just escaped from a prison work camp," he remarked dryly. "Thanks for the morning compliment," Callie replied, pulling out a chair and sitting across from him. "And you look like you lost a bet with the storm. Any chance there's breakfast? Or am I going to have to keep getting creative with your depressing excuse for a fridge?" Bo pushed a plate toward her with 2 charred pieces of toast and a boiled egg. "Don't expect a 5-star buffet. And this time, don't try cooking. I don't want to put out a kitchen fire." Callie made a face but grabbed a slice of toast anyway. "You know, Bo, I'm starting to think you're keeping me here just so someone else can suffer through your terrible cooking." Bo smirked, almost a real smile. "Or maybe I'm just getting payback for the mess you made with my tools last night." They ate in a strange sort of truce, not exactly friendly, but no longer tense either. Callie noticed that, for all Bo's gruffness, he didn't actually seem bothered by her being there. And she, despite constantly poking fun at him, found the ranch oddly charming. Maybe it was the chaos of it, or maybe it was Bo himself, mysterious, rough-edged, and somehow endearing in a way she couldn't explain. After breakfast, Bo announced that the road into town was still flooded and that they needed to fix a few things around the ranch to prevent further storm damage. The chicken coop's leaning like the Tower of Pisa, he said, standing up and brushing his hands on his jeans. If we don't fix it, the chickens are going to stage a rebellion. Callie raised an eyebrow. Fix the chicken coop? I'm a marketing expert, not a carpenter. What exactly do you expect me to do? Hold a hammer and pretend I know what I'm doing. Bo looked at her, a mischievous glint in his eye. Exactly, but if you mess it up, don't say I didn't warn you. She crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Challenge accepted, cowboy. But to make it more fun, let's make a bet. Whoever fixes their side first gets to make the other person do whatever they want. Deal? Bo tilted his head, clearly intrigued by the idea. Deal, but you're going to regret it, city girl. They dove into the work like two gladiators entering an arena. Callie, full of enthusiasm but lacking all skill, grabbed a hammer and nails, trying to reattach the loose boards on the chicken coop. The result was a series of screams when she hammered her own thumb, clucks of panic when she dropped a board on a chicken, and roaring laughter from Bo on the other side, probably the first time she had ever heard him laugh so openly. Need me to call in a rescue team? Bo hollered, saw in hand, working with the kind of precision that made it look like he was born doing this. He nailed, sawed, and tied beams with enviable skill, while Callie wrestled with a nail that refused to go into the wood. Shut up, Callie shouted back, wiping sweat from her forehead. I'm being creative. It's called modern chicken coop design. You wouldn't understand. By noon, the results were painfully obvious. Bo had won by a landslide. His side of the coop looked practically brand new, while Callie's side resembled a failed modern art project. She collapsed into a pile of hay, panting, and raised her hands in surrender. All right, you win. What do you want me to do? Mop the floors? Burn more eggs? Bo strolled over, dusting off his hands, a rare smile still lingering on his face. I've thought about it. You're going to wear the pink cowboy outfit in the barn, and we're taking a selfie. Callie's mouth dropped open. Pink? You're serious? I'll look like a walking lollipop. Exactly, Bo said, crossing his arms. And I'm framing the picture to remind you never to bet against me again. Grumbling, Callie finally dragged herself into the barn to find the outfit. But while rummaging, she accidentally knocked over an old cloth, revealing a large painting hanging on the wall. It was a stunning scene of open fields under a sunset, painted with such detail and vibrancy that Callie felt like she could step right into it. She froze, momentarily forgetting the ridiculous pink outfit. Bo, she called. What is this? Did you rob a museum or something? Bo appeared in the doorway, and the moment he saw the painting, his expression hardened. Don't touch that, he said, his voice suddenly cold. He strode over and pulled the cloth back over it, but Callie was already pressing. Wait a second. This is yours, isn't it? Only an artist would stretch a canvas like that in a dusty old barn. You painted it, didn't you? Bo stayed silent, avoiding her eyes. Finally, he sighed. Yeah, I did. But that's old news. Now find the pink outfit and stop asking questions. Callie tilted her head stubbornly. Old news? Bo, that painting is better than anything I've seen in a city gallery. Why would you hide it? Were you some kind of famous artist or something? Bo glared at her, but the sharpness in his eyes had softened. You ask too many questions. I'm not an artist. Not anymore. Now get dressed, unless you want to lose another bet. Callie wrinkled her nose, but knew she wouldn't get anything more out of him. At least not today. She found the pink cowboy outfit, complete with ridiculous sparkly fringe, and put it on with the enthusiasm of someone heading to a firing squad. When she stepped out, Bo nearly lost it laughing, but managed to hold it together long enough to snap a selfie. Callie made a grumpy face on purpose, but ended up laughing anyway when Bo fumbled with the camera angle. You're terrible at this, she teased, snatching the phone. Let me, I'm a selfie expert. Come on, cowboy. Smile unless you want to look like you just lost your favorite cow. The final photo wasn't half bad. Callie in her ridiculous pink outfit, Bo with a rare smile, and fuzzball photobombing with his tongue hanging out. They sat on the porch steps, scrolling through the photos, and Callie realized that somehow, in just a day, she had started liking this rundown ranch. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to like Bo too, the man who she suspected was hiding a lot more than just a painting. As the sunset bathed the muddy fields in a soft golden glow, Callie stared out and wondered about Bo. Who had he been? Why was someone with so much talent hiding out in a broken-down ranch? And more important, by the third day of being stranded at Bo Walker's ranch, Callie Monroe had grown oddly used to the strange rhythm of life there. The rain had finally stopped, but the road to Dusty Hollow remained an impassable mud pit, unless you were a duck or a tank. Callie had no choice but to stay, and to her own surprise, she wasn't all that upset about it. The rundown ranch, with its leaky roof and noisy chickens, had started to feel familiar. Or maybe, she silently admitted, it was Bo himself, the gruff cowboy who, more and more, revealed little glimpses that made her heart ring like church bells. That evening, as the sunset bathed the fields in gold, Bo suggested they build a campfire in the backyard. To keep warm, he said, but Callie suspected he mostly wanted an excuse to sit outside and avoid any more questions about the painting in the barn. She agreed right away, not just because she loved the idea of sitting by a fire, but because she was determined to pry more information out of him. Callie Monroe was not the type to give up easily, especially when faced with a mystery as tempting as Bo. They dragged out a few old logs to sit on, and Bo quickly built a fire, the flames crackling under a star-filled sky. Callie wrapped an old blanket around her shoulders and sat across from him, while Fuzzball, now officially her best friend, lay sprawled beside her, snoring loudly. Callie poked at the fire with a stick, watching Bo through the flickering light. He sat relaxed, cowboy hat pulled low, but his eyes seemed far away, lost in some distant memory. "Hey, cowboy," Callie said, breaking the silence. "You ever think about turning this place into a tourist attraction? I mean, who wouldn't want to pay for the experience of surviving in a barely standing ranch?" Bo smirked but didn't look up. "Still clinging to your marketing dreams, huh? I don't need tourists. They just break my tools, like someone I know." Callie laughed, raising her hands innocently. "Hey, ancient history. But seriously, Bo, what are you planning to do with this place? Live forever as a hermit with just your chickens and Fuzzball for company?" Bo shot her a wary but curious glance. "I like the quiet. Not everyone needs to live life at full volume like you." Callie scrunched her nose. "Full volume? I call it lively. But come on, you can't just hide out here forever. You've got talent, Bo. That painting in the barn?" She paused, watching his reaction carefully. "That's not something a random farmer throws together." Bo stiffened, his hand tightening around the stick he held. "You're not gonna let that go, are you?" he muttered, his voice low. Part irritation, part exhaustion. Callie leaned forward, the firelight dancing in her eyes. "Nope, I'm Callie Monroe, professional secret digger. So spill it, Bo Walker. Who are you? A famous painter? A hidden genius? Or just a guy who paints to scare chickens?" Bo stayed silent for a long moment, staring into the fire. Callie thought he might refuse, but then he sighed, shoulders sagging as if losing an internal battle. "All right," he said, voice deep and rough. "But if you laugh, I'm tossing you into the hay pile." Callie raised her hand solemnly. "I swear, no laughing, unless it's actually funny." Bo shot her a look, but a faint twitch at the corner of his mouth gave him away. He began speaking, his voice slow and deliberate, like turning the fragile pages of a book he had long tried to keep closed. 10 years ago, I wasn't this. I lived in Austin, I painted, and yeah, I was kind of a big deal. My paintings hung in galleries. They sold for prices that would make you think I was crazy if I told you." Callie's mouth dropped open but snapped shut quickly under Bo's warning glare. "Go on," she urged, barely containing her excitement. Bo stared into the flames, his voice dropping even lower. "I had it all. Money, fame, parties I never wanted to attend. And then a friend, a colleague, betrayed me. He stole my paintings, sold them under his own name. When I called him out, no one believed me. They thought I was jealous or worse, a liar. The scandal destroyed everything. I hated it all. The art world, the fake smiles, even myself. So I left, bought this ranch, walked away, stopped painting. Callie sat still, for once unsure what to say. Beau's story wasn't just a secret, it was a scar, and she could feel the pain woven into every word. But this was Callie Monroe. She couldn't let the mood stay heavy for long. She tilted her head and grinned mischievously. So you ran off because of a few jerks? Beau, my best friend, once stole my boyfriend right out from under my nose. You know what I did? I still went to their wedding, ate all their free buffet food, and danced until I broke a heel. Beau looked up, startled, and then he laughed. A deep, full laugh that startled Fuzzball awake with a bark. You're serious? He asked, still chuckling, eyes alight with amusement. You crashed the wedding? Sure did, Callie said, slapping her knee. And I even took home a piece of cake. Point is, you can't let idiots win, Beau. You have talent, and you're wasting it out here hiding from the world. It's a crime against art and against ugly living rooms that desperately need your paintings. Beau shook his head, but his smile stayed. You're something else, Callie Monroe. And you love it. Don't even try to deny it, Callie winked, tossing a small stick at him. Seriously though, Cowboy, you can't hide forever. The world needs your paintings, or at least I need them, for some much-needed decoration in this leaking disaster you call a living room. Beau didn't answer right away, but his gaze softened. He looked at Callie as if truly seeing her for the first time. Not just a feisty city girl, but someone who had made him laugh, made him open up. You know, he said, voice lighter, you mess up everything, but maybe not in a bad way. Callie smiled, her heart beating a little faster. I'll take that as a compliment, Cowboy. They sat there by the fire as the stars sparkled overhead. Callie shared more funny stories from her city life, like the time she spilled coffee all over her boss during a meeting, or the time she tried yoga and toppled over dramatically. Beau listened, chuckling occasionally, and for the first time, he shared a few of his own memories, like the time he painted a massive canvas just to give to his mother, or the time he got chased by a cow when he first moved to the ranch. As the fire burned low, Callie yawned, leaning back against a log. Hey, Beau, she said sleepily. Thanks for telling me. And for this fire, it's pretty amazing. Beau looked at her, his gaze warmer than she had ever seen. Thanks for listening, Callie. And for not laughing. She wrinkled her nose. Oh, I wanted to laugh, but I'm a woman of my word. They laughed together, and when Callie finally stood and headed back toward the house, she felt something shift, not just between her and Beau, but inside herself. She had come here because of a storm, but maybe, just maybe, she had ended up exactly where she was meant to be. Beau extinguished the fire, glancing back toward the house where Callie disappeared inside. He said nothing, but somewhere deep within him, a door creaked open, a door he had long ago slammed shut. And for the first time in years, he wondered if the life he had been hiding from was actually waiting for him to return. After 4 days at Beau Walker's ranch, Callie Monroe had officially become part of the crumbling place, at least in the eyes of the chickens and Fuzzball, the shaggy dog who now followed her around like a personal bodyguard. The road into Dusty Hollow had finally started to dry out, but Callie wasn't rushing to leave. She told herself it was because she wanted to help Beau fix a few more things. But deep down, she knew the real reason. She liked it here. She liked sparring with Beau, and she liked the feeling that she was discovering a whole new version of herself. But that morning, everything veered off course in a way even Callie, with her marketing genius improvisation skills, couldn't have predicted. It all started when Mrs. Mabel, Beau's notoriously nosy neighbor, appeared at the ranch gate with a basket of cookies and a mischievous grin. Mrs. Mabel, with her silver hair and hawk-sharp eyes, was the gossip queen of Dusty Hollow, and today she had brought a bombshell. Good morning, lovebirds, Mrs. Mabel called sweetly. I heard Callie's your fiancé, Beau. Why didn't you tell this old lady? Callie, who had been carrying a bucket of water for the chickens, nearly dumped it all over her own feet. Fiancé, she shrieked, spinning to glare at Beau, who stood frozen, shovel in hand. Beau's face turned red, a rare sight that made Callie want to take a picture for posterity. I didn't say anything, he protested, voice higher than usual. Mrs. Mabel, she's just riding out the storm. There's no wedding happening here. Mrs. Mabel winked, clearly unconvinced. Oh, come on. A pretty girl staying at your ranch all week. The town's not blind, Bo. And guess what? The local fair this weekend has a contest for Best Cowboy Couple of the Year. I already signed you two up. Callie's jaw dropped while Bo looked like he wanted to dig a hole and disappear. You signed us up, Callie yelped, half laughing, half ready to flee. Mrs. Mabel, I don't even know how to ride a horse, and I'm not his fiancée. Mrs. Mabel waved her hand dismissively, as if that small detail hardly mattered. The fair's the biggest event in town. You two will be the stars. Anyway, I have to run. Gotta tell the ladies at the card game. She waddled off, leaving Callie and Bo standing dumbstruck in the yard. Callie turned to Bo, arms crossed. Bo Walker, this is your fault. Why didn't you tell her I was just a stranded city girl? Bo sighed and tossed the shovel down. You think I can control Mrs. Mabel? She's a hurricane. And now the whole town's going to think we're getting married. Callie burst out laughing, unable to help herself. Fantastic. I came here to visit my grandma, and now I'm a cowboy bride. You owe me a decent cup of coffee after this, cowboy. But the chaos didn't stop there. Rumors spread like wildfire, and by that afternoon, a whole group from town, including members of the fair committee, showed up at the ranch to congratulate the happy couple. Callie and Bo had no choice but to play along to avoid embarrassing Mrs. Mabel, which led to one unforgettable training session for the Best Cowboy Couple contest. The contest required them to dress in cowboy gear, perform a square dance routine, and answer a few relationship questions on stage. Callie, dressed in a borrowed cowboy outfit from Mrs. Mabel, yes, more fringe, this time in blue, tried not to laugh every time she looked at Bo, who was crammed into a too-tight plaid shirt and a shiny new cowboy hat. You look like you just stepped out of a farm-themed cologne ad, she teased, dodging Bo's withering glare. Shut up, Bo grumbled, his cheeks burning. You're not much better. You look like you're about to star in a musical. They practiced square dancing in the yard under the direction of a bossy fair committee lady who kept yelling, Left! No, right! Good grief! How do you two lovebirds dance so badly? Callie kept stepping on Bo's boots, and Bo kept fumbling every time he had to spin her. By the fifth time Callie tripped into a hay pile, both of them dissolved into uncontrollable laughter. You're a disaster, Bo said, helping her up, his hand lingering on hers just a little longer than necessary. Thanks, Callie said brightly, and you're a fantastic partner. But admit it, Bo, you're enjoying this. Bo shook his head, but the rare smile tugging at his lips said otherwise. Amid all the ridiculousness, a more serious problem arose. Mr. Clarence, a wealthy but stingy landowner from Dusty Hollow, showed up at the ranch the next day with an offer to buy Bo's land for a pitiful price. He boasted about his plans to turn the ranch into a commercial resort, and his smug attitude made Callie's blood boil. You think you can buy this whole town just because you've got money? Callie snapped, stepping in front of Bo, whose fists were clenched tightly. Mr. Clarence sneered. Stay out of this, girl. Bo, you know this dump isn't worth much. Take the offer before I change my mind. Bo's voice was cold and steady. Not selling. Get off my land. After Mr. Clarence left, Callie whirled on Bo, her eyes gleaming. We can't let that snake win. I have a plan. A very Callie plan. Bo raised an eyebrow, half suspicious, half intrigued. What kind of plan? Please tell me it doesn't involve cooking more burnt eggs. Callie laughed. Nope. Smarter than that. The fair is where the whole town gathers, right? We'll play the happy couple, make everyone fall in love with this ranch. Meanwhile, I'll cozy up to Mr. Clarence's buddies and dig for dirt. I bet he's got skeletons in his closet. If we expose him, he'll back off. Bo looked at her, clearly impressed despite himself. You're trouble, Callie Monroe. But, all right, I'm in. They shook hands, and Callie couldn't help but notice how warm and solid Bo's grip was, and how it made her heart race just a little faster. Deal, cowboy, she said, winking. Get ready because we're about to shake up Dusty Hollow. As they went back to practicing their square dance, Callie stumbled, straight into Beau's arms. For a moment, they froze, eyes locked. Callie gave a nervous laugh and pushed him away. Don't get any ideas, Cowboy. I only fell because your yard's a mess. Beau smirked. Sure you did, city girl. The fair was coming fast, and with rumors, contests, and scheming afoot, Callie knew the next few days would be anything but peaceful. But she wasn't afraid. She was here, with Beau, on a battered old ranch. And for the first time, it felt like exactly where she was meant to be. The Dusty Hollow Fair was fast approaching, and the whole town seemed to wake up after the storm. The once muddy red dirt roads had dried, now decorated with paper lanterns and colorful pennant flags. Callie Monroe, now practically part of Beau Walker's ramshackle ranch, threw herself into the preparations with the energy of someone who had just downed 3 cups of coffee. She wasn't just determined to help Beau shine in the best cowboy couple contest. She was also dead set on carrying out her secret plan to expose Mr. Clarence, the greedy landowner eyeing Beau's ranch at a bargain price. But amid all the festival chaos, there was one thing Callie hadn't expected: the growing, undeniable feeling that she was falling for the gruff cowboy. That morning, Callie dragged Beau out into the yard to practice square dancing, a mission she claimed to be an expert at, based solely on having watched a YouTube tutorial once. Beau, wearing a plaid shirt and scuffed boots, looked like he was heading to his own execution as he faced her. Callie, dressed in a cowboy dress borrowed from Mrs. Mabel, thankfully this time without fringe, clapped her hands authoritatively. All right, cowboy, you're going to learn how to dance without looking like a cow stuck in a barn. Listen to me. Step, spin, hold hands, repeat. Easy. Beau raised an eyebrow and crossed his arms. Easy? Girl, I've seen chickens dance better than you. Callie glared but fought back a smile. Shut up and grab my hand, unless you want the whole town laughing at us tomorrow. Beau reluctantly held out his hand, and they began, or at least they tried. Callie, armed with way too much confidence, immediately stepped squarely on Beau's foot on the very first move. He winced but didn't let go. You trying to cripple me before the fair? He muttered dryly. Oh, don't be a baby, Callie replied, adjusting their stance. This is art, Beau. You have to feel the rhythm. She blasted a country song from her phone, and they continued, but it quickly devolved into hilarious chaos. Callie spun the wrong way, crashed into Beau, and nearly toppled both of them. In trying to keep her upright, Beau stepped on her foot, prompting Callie to yelp. Ow! Are you wearing steel-toed boots? You're leading. What kind of disaster are you choreographing here? Beau shot back, but he was laughing. A real laugh, the kind Callie realized she hadn't seen from him before. They practiced a few more rounds, still clumsy, but slowly starting to find a rhythm. When Callie accidentally spun into Beau's chest after another botched twirl, she looked up and found his gaze, warm and unexpectedly close. She quickly pushed off him, cheeks burning. Don't look at me like that. I just slipped. Because the ground's uneven. Beau smirked. Sure you did, city girl. After the disastrous dance session, Beau decided to get revenge by teaching Callie to ride a horse. Ride a horse? Callie repeated skeptically. You want me to climb onto a giant animal just to prove what? That I can fall even harder than when I dance? Beau led her to the barn where Shadow, his favorite black horse, stood lazily chewing hay. If you want to be a real cowboy, he said, voice serious but eyes twinkling with mischief, you gotta ride. Relax, Shadow's calmer than you are. Callie scowled but couldn't resist the challenge. With Beau's guidance, she mounted the horse, clutching the reins like a life preserver. If I fall, Beau Walker, I swear I'm dragging you down with me, she warned. Beau stood beside her, one hand steadying the reins, the other gently supporting her back. Relax. Horses can tell when you're scared. Just stay calm, like when you knocked over my entire toolbox. Very funny, Callie muttered, but she tried to focus. Shadow began walking slowly, and for a few glorious minutes, Callie actually felt proud. Look at me, I'm the queen of cowboys, she shouted, throwing one hand into the air. Right then, Shadow, startled at her yell, shook himself, and Callie toppled straight into a haystack, landing with messy hair and a mouthful of straw. Bo doubled over with laughter, nearly falling himself. "Queen of Cowboys, huh?" he teased, wiping tears from his eyes. "You look like you just lost a wrestling match with a hay bale." Callie sat up, spitting out bits of straw, but laughing with him. "Fine, laugh it up, cowboy, but mark my words. I'll ride that horse like a pro before this fair ends. And you'll be begging for my autograph." Bo stepped over and offered his hand to help her up. When their hands touched, they froze for just a second. The air between them suddenly different. Callie cleared her throat and pulled away. "Thanks, but I can get up myself. Now come on, we've got more dancing to butcher before I decide to run back to the city." They kept preparing for the fair, and somewhere amid all the clumsy dancing and botched horse rides, Callie realized they were becoming more than just two people pretending to be a couple. They were becoming friends and maybe even something more. Bo started opening up, telling small stories about life on the ranch, like the time he tried to fix the roof and ended up stuck up there all night. Callie responded with city stories, like the time she accidentally locked herself in her office because she forgot the door code. The night before the fair, Callie sat alone on the front porch, gazing up at the sea of stars overhead. She felt oddly peaceful. She, the city girl who loved espresso and neon lights, now perfectly content among crickets and open skies. She wondered absently if she really wanted to go back to her old life at all. Bo appeared silently behind her, carrying an old jacket. Without a word, he draped it over her shoulders, making Callie jump. "It's cold," he said simply, sitting down beside her. "You plotting how to destroy more of my stuff?" Callie chuckled softly, pulling the jacket tighter. Just thinking. This place, it's weird. I came here because of a storm, and now I'm not so sure I want to leave." Bo looked at her, his eyes softer than she had ever seen them. "If you stayed," he said quietly, sincerely, "things would be better." Callie's heart hammered in her chest. His words weren't fancy, but they were real, and she felt every bit of their weight. She smiled, trying to lighten the moment. "Only if you promise to retire that ancient cowboy hat. Seriously, it looks like it belongs in a museum." Bo chuckled, shaking his head. "Not a chance. That hat's part of my soul." "Then I guess I'll stay just to steal it and burn it," Callie teased. But deep down, she knew she was falling into something deeper than jokes. She looked at him, the stars reflected in his eyes, and for the first time, she wondered if Dusty Hollow could be home. The fair was coming, and with it, the plan to expose Mr. Clarence, the cowboy couple contest, and emotions she wasn't sure she could control. But as she rose, brushing her shoulder against Bo's, she thought, whatever chaos came next, she was ready for it, as long as he was by her side. The Dusty Hollow Fair was a smashing success, and to everyone's surprise, Callie Monroe and Bo Walker became the town's new sweethearts. They didn't win the Best Cowboy Couple of the Year title. They lost to an elderly couple after Callie accidentally spilled lemonade on one of the judges during the dance. But their performance left the town roaring with laughter and loving Bo's ramshackle ranch more than ever. Callie's secret plan to expose Mr. Clarence was also making good progress. She had cleverly extracted information from one of his friends, learning that Clarence had a history of spreading false rumors to scare farmers into selling their land cheap. But amid the small victories, another storm, this time emotional, was brewing silently. The morning after the fair, Callie sat on the ranch porch, holding a cup of Bo's terrible coffee, which she had gotten used to, and checking her phone for the first time in days thanks to the weak signal. An email caught her eye from an advertising firm in Austin, inviting her to interview for a marketing director position, a dream job she had applied for months ago and almost forgotten. Callie smiled, not out of overwhelming excitement, but because the idea of a little trip back to the city sounded fun. She didn't really want to leave Dusty Hollow, but a quick trip to see if she still fit in with the city lights? Why not? She mentioned it casually to Mrs. Mabel when the older woman stopped by with more cookies. "I got an interview offer in Austin," Callie said, grinning. "I'm not sure I'll take the job, but hey, why not go for the experience? I mean, who says no to a chance to wear real business clothes and drink decent coffee?" Mrs. Mabel nodded, but there was a sly glint in her eyes. "That's nice, dear. But are you sure Bo will be happy to hear that?" He's been looking pretty attached to you lately. Callie waved her off with a laugh. Bo? He'll be thrilled to get rid of me. I'm his personal nightmare, remember? What Callie didn't know was that Mrs. Mabel, with a gossip network faster than the internet, told one friend, who told another, and soon the story reached Bo, only it was twisted beyond recognition. By lunchtime, Bo heard the distorted version. Callie's leaving because she's tired of this small-town life. Bo froze in the barn, the reins slipping from his hands. He said nothing, but inside a storm was raging. Over the past few days, he had opened up to Callie, the feisty city girl who made him laugh, who made him think maybe his reclusive life didn't have to last forever. And now he felt like a fool. She was tired of the ranch, tired of him, and just waiting for her chance to run back to her shiny city life. That afternoon, Callie was in the yard, clumsily trying to bundle hay, when Bo approached, his eyes cold as ice. "When are you leaving?" he asked, voice low but sharp. Callie looked up, confused. "Leaving? You mean for the store? Because if you think I'm going anywhere before you buy more sugar, forget it. Your coffee's bitter enough to kill small animals." Bo didn't smile. "Don't play dumb. I heard you got a job interview in Austin. You're tired of this place, aren't you? Tired of this town?" Callie blinked, trying to piece together what was happening. "An interview? Oh, that. But I'm just going for fun. I wasn't—" "For fun?" Bo snapped, cutting her off. "You think this is a game? You come here, stir everything up, make me think—" He stopped, fist clenching, as if regretting saying too much. "If you want to go, go. Don't pretend you belong here." Callie felt her face burn with anger. She stood up, brushing hay from her jeans, her eyes flashing. "Pretend? Bo Walker, you think I'm here for kicks? I fixed your chicken coop, fell off your horse, and ate my own burnt eggs for you. If I wanted to leave, I would have left a long time ago." Bo stepped back, but his face stayed hard. "Then why even go to that interview? If you liked it here so much, why are you looking for an out? Or maybe you're just pitying me, pitying this broken-down ranch." His words hit like a slap. Callie felt her chest tighten painfully. She wasn't someone who cried easily, but her eyes burned now. "Pity you," she shouted, her voice trembling. "I stayed because I loved it here, because I loved the chickens, loved fuzzball, and, damn it, loved you, you stubborn idiot. But clearly you don't need me. I don't need your saving." The last words shot out like bullets, and instantly Callie regretted them, but her pride wouldn't let her take them back. Bo stood motionless, his expression dark, like she had driven a knife straight through him. "Right," he said quietly, his voice like a cold blade. "I don't have anything to keep you here." The air between them turned heavy, as if all the laughter, the clumsy dances, the nights by the fire, had been erased. Callie turned away, blinking back tears. She stormed into the house, grabbed her bag and a few belongings, and decided she was leaving immediately. Before she left, she noticed the handkerchief she had embroidered for Bo, a silly little gift she made during a quiet afternoon, with a crooked horse and a wobbly bee stitched on it. She placed it carefully on the table, a tear landing on the fabric, and then she walked out. Bo stood in the yard, watching Callie disappear down the red dirt road. He wanted to run after her, to tell her he didn't mean it, that he was just scared of losing her. But the old fear, the one that whispered he wasn't good enough, that he couldn't offer her the life she deserved, kept him frozen. He turned and walked inside, finding the handkerchief waiting on the table. He picked it up, tracing the awkward stitches with his fingers, and his heart cracked open. Callie walked toward her grandmother's house on the outskirts of town, tears blurring her vision. She told herself she didn't need Bo, that she would return to the city, take the dream job, and forget all about this broken-down ranch. But with every step, memories haunted her. Bo's rare smiles, the way he covered her with his jacket under the stars, the way he ate her terrible cooking without complaint just to make her happy. She had said she didn't need him to save her, but now she felt like she had thrown herself into a storm with no way out. At the ranch, Bo sat by the fireplace, the handkerchief clenched in his hand. Fuzzball lay beside him, whimpering softly as if he could sense his master's pain. Bo stared into the flames, wondering if he had just lost the best thing that had ever happened to him. Callie had brought light to his world, and now he was left alone in the dark again. Both of them, separated by only a few miles, felt the same hollow ache. But Dusty Hollow was a small town, and love stories around here never ended that easily. A bigger secret was waiting to be revealed, and Callie, heartbroken as she was about to discover that Bo Walker. After Callie Monroe left Bo Walker's ranch, Dusty Hollow fell into a strange kind of silence. It wasn't peaceful, more like something essential had gone missing. There were no more bursts of laughter from the once infamous, almost engaged couple. Everyone noticed. Callie was gone, and Bo had retreated even deeper into his old solitude. Only now, it was tinged with something heavier, sadder. At her grandmother's house, Callie tried to convince herself she was fine, that she didn't need Bo, that she didn't need the ramshackle ranch, the starry skies, or his terrible coffee. But the more she tried to forget, the more she remembered. She missed his rare, crooked smiles. She missed the way he looked at her, like she was the only thing that mattered. She missed how safe she had felt, sitting beside him under the stars. Meanwhile, Bo wandered the ranch like a ghost, fixing fences, feeding chickens, but his soul wasn't in it. The handkerchief Callie had embroidered still lay on the kitchen table, untouched, a painful reminder of what he had lost. Even Fuzzball, the shaggy dog, seemed heartbroken, refusing to move from his spot by the fire. Bo kept telling himself that Callie belonged somewhere better, that she deserved more than broken fences and leaky roofs. But deep down he knew, without her, he had nothing. The night before the town's autumn festival, Callie stood by the window, staring at the distant lights of Dusty Hollow, and realized she couldn't stay away any longer. She could live without a lot of things, but not without Bo Walker. She wasn't sure if he would take her back, wasn't sure if he would even want to see her again. But she knew one thing. She loved him, and she had to fight for him. Callie Monroe had never been a quitter, and tonight she was going back to claim what she had foolishly walked away from. She threw on a sparkling red cowboy dress her grandmother had lent her, borrowed a horse from Farmer Joe, and, despite a few near disasters during a crash course riding lesson, galloped toward Dusty Hollow under the stars. The festival was in full swing. Paper lanterns swayed overhead, the scent of barbecue filled the air, and country music played from every corner. Bo, dragged there by Mrs. Mabel, stood stiffly by the fence line, shovel still in hand from helping with a booth. Suddenly, the sound of hoofbeats thundered across the square. The crowd parted. There she was. Callie Monroe on a white horse, her red dress billowing in the breeze, eyes blazing with determination. She rode straight to the center of the square, halted the horse, and shouted, "Bo Walker! You owe me a dance, and I owe you my whole heart. I'm not going anywhere. And if you don't come to me, I swear I'll chase you down all across Dusty Hollow." For a moment, there was only silence. Then Bo looked up, and the shovel slipped from his hands with a loud clang. He didn't think. He just ran, through the crowd, straight to her. "You're crazy, Callie Monroe," he said, breathless, voice trembling. "But I'm crazy about you." Callie swung down from the horse, nearly falling, but somehow sticking the landing. And before she could say another word, Bo swept her into his arms, holding her like he never intended to let go again. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. "Kiss her! Kiss her!" Mrs. Mabel hollered. Callie laughed through her tears, stood on tiptoe, and pressed a soft kiss to Bo's cheek. "That's just a down payment," she whispered. "You'll have to earn the rest." Bo grinned, one of those rare, dazzling smiles she had fallen for. As they stood there, tangled in each other's arms, another kind of chaos broke out. Excited chatter, whispers rippling through the crowd, and then someone blurted it out. "Did you hear? Bo Walker's rich. He's been secretly funding half the town for years." The festival went dead silent. Callie blinked up at Bo, stunned. "You're a millionaire?" Bo shrugged, looking adorably sheepish. "I just wanted a quiet life. Money didn't mean much without you." Callie laughed, wrapping her arms tighter around him. "Good, because now I'm staying, And someone needs to make sure you don't burn the eggs. The crowd roared with laughter. Mrs. Mabel clapped like a proud mother hen, and Bo kissed Callie's forehead, holding her close. That night, under the swaying lanterns and the endless stars, they danced. No music, no fancy steps, just the two of them, swaying together, as if the rest of the world had melted away. Callie knew then, beyond any doubt, that she had found her true home. Not in the city, not even in the ranch, but in Bo Walker's arms, where she belonged. 6 months after Callie Monroe's wild comeback at the Dusty Hollow Festival, Bo Walker's ranch was no longer a crumbling wreck. Callie had officially moved in, bringing with her an explosive energy and a long list of renovation ideas that Bo could only smile and shake his head at. They had become the most talked about couple in town, not just for their dramatic love story, but for the way they turned everyday life into an unforgettable adventure. But today, Bo was hiding a plan even bigger than any of Callie's crazy ideas. A plan that, for once, even her sharp instincts hadn't picked up on. That morning, Callie was in the kitchen, trying to bake a batch of cookies using Mrs. Mabel's old recipe. She had improved her cooking skills, at least she no longer burned the pans. But Bo still teased that her cookies were hard enough to build a house with. When Callie set the tray of warm cookies on the table, Bo walked in, holding a cup of coffee, but there was something different in his eyes. He sat down, pretending to be casual, but Callie noticed him tapping his fingers nervously on the table, an unmistakable sign that something was up. "Hey, Cowboy," Callie teased, sliding the cookie plate toward him. "Why do you look like you just lost a fight with the chickens? Come on, try one. I swear they're not lethal this time." Bo smirked, grabbing a cookie. "If I survive this, it'll be a miracle." He took a bite, chewed slowly, and then suddenly started coughing. Callie panicked, thinking she must have accidentally used salt instead of sugar. Again. But then she saw Bo pull something from his mouth, a small silver ring, sparkling under the morning sunlight. Callie gaped, clutching her chest. "Bo Walker, you hid a ring in the cookies? Were you trying to kill me or propose to me?" Bo burst out laughing, stood up, and knelt down in front of her, still holding the slightly crumb-covered ring. "Callie Monroe, you're the biggest trouble I've ever had, but also the best thing that's ever happened to me. I can't promise you the world, but I promise you everything I have. This ranch, my heart, and all the sunny days ahead. Will you marry me?" For the first time in her life, Callie Monroe was speechless. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she quickly recovered, flashing a mischievous grin. "Only if you promise never to hide jewelry in my food again." "Seriously, Bo, you are such a country boy." She held out her hand, and Bo slid the ring onto her finger, both of them laughing so hard that Fuzzball came running in, barking wildly as if celebrating with them. The news of Callie and Bo's engagement spread through Dusty Hollow faster than wildfire. Mrs. Mabel proudly declared herself the best matchmaker of the decade. Together, Callie and Bo dove headfirst into renovating the ranch, transforming it into a cowboy-style guest house called Monroe and Walker's Dusty Haven. Thanks to Callie's marketing skills, the place quickly became a popular destination for tourists wanting to experience ranch life. Horseback riding, outdoor barbecues, and rooms decorated with Bo's paintings. He had started painting again, thanks to Callie's encouragement. One of Callie's most popular ideas was a riding for the clumsy horse riding class. She personally taught the classes, proudly declaring, "If I can ride without falling, so can you." The first batch of students, mostly city folks, roared with laughter as Callie reenacted the story of how she once fell headfirst into a pile of hay. Bo, watching from the barn, looked at her with quiet pride, thinking she was the greatest treasure he'd ever found in a storm. One afternoon, with the renovations finally complete, Callie and Bo decided to ride out across the fields to watch the sunset, a ritual they had both come to love. Callie, now a confident rider, guided Shadow across the golden fields, while Bo rode beside her, his cowboy hat pulled low. The setting sun bathed everything in a warm golden glow. Callie turned to Bo, her smile as radiant as the sky. "I guess I've found my treasure here after all," she said, voice soft but full of emotion. Bo looked at her, his eyes as warm as the sunset itself. And you're the most beautiful part of my fortune, he replied, voice deep and sincere. They stopped their horses, leaned into each other, and watched the sun disappear below the horizon. Callie thought about her journey, from a lost city girl caught in a storm to a woman who had found love, family, and herself in the most unexpected place. Bo beside her felt the peace he had been missing for so long. The ranch wasn't a hiding place anymore. It was home. Their home. Under the sunset sky, with the soft wind and the steady rhythm of hooves, Callie and Bo knew that no matter where life took them, they would always have each other.